거는 자기마당 속에서 대전 뒷단들이 운동이야.
I'm sorry, but I just cannot translate. They are saying what they are trying to say. What he's trying to say is even in Korean I don't understand. Sorry for that. 난 내가 느낌이 얼마나 한다 이랬단 말이야. 내가 저서 말을 뒤에.
Ask the kids. They know better.
뭘 물어 뭘 하니? 그래서 보니까 무슨 거 얘들아 일어났어. 빨리 촬영하는데
그 거는 자기마당. 거는 자기마당 속에서 그 대전 뒷단들이 운동에 대한 거.
The movement of charged elements in the field of evenly distributed magnetic field.
그래서 이제 대학원 형식 자체가 선생님이 강연을 해주시면 학생들이 강연을 하다가 책상을 아이들끼리 책상을 스스로 갖고 가지고 저도 이렇게 그룹을 해서 이렇게 after taking the lessons from the yeah, sometimes they form the groups to discuss together in pairs. That they do the experiment. Five times a week.
5 times a week. Every day.
매일 없는 소리들이
How many hours you spend here?
그래서 대체로 하루에 시간 공부하는
And how many hours you spend in school in the morning?
아침에 공부하는데
그래서 여기에 오신 선생님들이 노벨상 수상자 선생님들입니다. 노벨 화학상, 노벨 우학상, 노벨 경제학상 수상자인데 여기 누가 노벨상에 대해서 아는 분 있나요? 노벨상이 뭔지? 노벨상이라는 게 뭔지 아나요? They all know that. They know. I mean, we have Nobel Laureates. 그래서 여기에 지금 이 학부에 각 분야에서 유명한 노벨상 수상자가 3명 지금 있다는 사실에 대해서 알고 있나요? 노벨 화학상 수상자 선생님이고 뒤에 노벨 생리학상 선생님.
They know that we are coming. They didn't know. I don't want to make bye guy.
division, sometimes from 6 years old to 16 years old with the same training.
그러니까 교원들이 모든 학생들에게 가르칠 수 있는 나이가 이상한 있는 학생들에게 가르칠 수 있는 교육을 있겠어요.
That's why the trainers, I mean the colleges trainers, and
Everyone move back please. Move back please.
자, 웃어요.
I wish I could dance with the Nobel Laureate when I was 10 years old.
Hey! Dance, dance. Take please. No.
하대라.
건강 맞춰라. 인연이 선. 인연이 선.
This is embroidery, but it's a stubble size. But it's not complete.
This is something
그래서 여기 지금 학생들이 만든 거니까 아니면 좀 다른 사람이
혼자 안 쓰는 사람.
아니 여기 문제 여기 앉아 이거
이 학생인데?
우리 아이 우리 교직원 학생들의 이름으로 열렬히 환영합니다.
In the first place, on behalf of the entire staff and students of Ciechanover University of Technology, I warmly welcome His Serene Highness Prince Alfred of Liechtenstein and Mr. Morawetz, the Chairman of International Peace Foundation, and the International Nobel Laureates who have come a long way to visit our place again. For the Nobel Laureates who are new to our university, let me give a brief description of it.
김치공업종합대학은 우리 민의 위대하시던 김일성 동지의 직접적인 발휘를 위해서 1948년 9월 27일에 나라의 첫 기술종합
He is a revolutionary fighter who devoted his whole life to freedom and independence of the country.
우리 대학은 두 개의 단과대학, 정보과학기술대학과 기계과학기술대학, 또 연료식계학부, 자원탐수공학부, 광업공학부, 금속공학부, 재료공학부, 열공학부, 선박해양공학부, 전기공학부, 전자공학부, 최신학부, 자동화공학부, 동력학부, 경제관리학부, 응용수학부, 물리학부, 응용화학부, 교육학부, 사회과학 구성되었습니다.
The educational system of Ciechanover University of Technology includes
대학 전자도서관은 200만 개의 장소능력과 2천만 권의 과학기술 자료를 구축하고 독자들을 공사하고 있습니다.
the e-library of the university covers a total floor space of over 16,500 square meters and serves readers with a storage capacity of over 2 million books and more than 20 million scientific and technological materials.
The first step towards peace is dialogue, and the first step towards dialogue is respect. Our foundation does act as a mediator by creating an independent platform for dialogue.
길은 한 길이 아니라는 것, 평화의 길은 여러 가지 길이 있다는 것을 알게 될 것입니다.
I would like to thank Chaek University of Technology for today, this morning, and also in the afternoon. And would like to warmly welcome Professor Ciechanover from Israel, Nobel Laureate for Chemistry at the Technion Israel Institute, Professor Kydland from Norway and Nobel Laureate for Economics at the Department of Economics of the University of California in Santa Barbara.
또한 이 자리에는 그 노르웨이에서 오신 그 경제학 노벨 수상자인 키들랜드 교수 선생님도 뵙습니다. 현재 키들랜드 그 선생님은 미국 캘리포니아 종합대학에서 그 교편을 잡고 계십니다.
And Dr. Sir Richard Roberts from the UK, Nobel Laureate for Medicine at New England Biolabs in Ipswich, who have agreed to come to the DPRK to support the events.
또한 이 자리에는 영국에서 오신 그 로버츠 박사 스승님도 계십니다. 이 박사 스승님은 의학 분야에서 노벨상을 수여받은 스승님이 있습니다. 그래서 이 스승님이 이번에 귀국을 방문하면서 우리 국제평화기금 사업을 도와주는 것 있습니다.
So each of the Nobel Laureates will give this.
수상자 스승님들이 각각 그 자기 분야에 대해서 그 이야기를 그 강의를 해드리게 됩니다. 그리고 오후에는 질의응답을 하겠습니다. 그래서 여러분들이 강의를 들은 데 기초해서 제기되는 질문들이 있으면은 그에 대해서 서로 질문을 하면서 서로
First visit to the DPRK, and I hope there will be follow-up on this one, and I'll come again, and you will come to visit us as well. And what I thought to do today is to tell you a little bit about myself, and then about our work. So we shall start.
그래서 저는 이번에 귀국을 처음으로 방문하게 됩니다. 그래서 오늘 그 김제공업종합대학을 이렇게 방문해서 여기에서 강의를 하게 된 데 대해서 기쁘게 생각합니다. 그래서 저의 이 방문길은 처음이 아니라 이제 다음번에 또 다시 이 귀국을 방문하게 되리라고 저는 희망합니다.
그래서 우선 처음으로 저의 경력에 대해서 간단히 이야기를 해드리고 제가 진행하는 연구 사업에 대해서 말씀드리려고 합니다.
I think that looking at one's biography, there is much to learn. Though initially it may look simple, there are many points in everyone's biography from which one can draw interesting lessons, and I think that from mine as well. Smaller in surface area than the DPRK, we are here on the very east side of the Mediterranean Sea.
그 지도 밖에 이스라엘이라는 나라 밖에 지금 글자가 이스라엘이라고 표시되어 있습니다. 1965년부터 69년까지, 남해 70년부터 73년까지 이렇게 연결되지 않고 끊어지었습니다. 그래서 1년 동안 제가 결승 채택을 하기 위해서 전공을 받기 위해서 1년 동안 끊어진 그런 부분이 있습니다. 그래서 현재 이렇게 경력을 두 개로 가져놓았습니다.
So as you can see, in the middle of the studies, and remember this point, I started to have some hesitations about my future and whether I really want to be a practicing doctor or I want to be a scientist. So here started the little shift in my career.
그래서 제가 대학 공부를 한 과정이 말입니다. 그래서 제가 이제 공부를 내가 대학을 졸업하고 실제 의사로 활동하겠는가 아니면 과학자로서의 길을 걷겠는가 하는 이 두 문제를 놓고 제가 좀 주저를 하게 되었습니다.
Here are some pictures from my medical school time. Here I am with my good friends, the students. Here I am. At that time we were in the ear and nose and throat department.
여기서 이 그림에서는 제가 대학 다닐 때의 사진들이겠습니다. 그래서 현재 의학학부 공부할 때 동무들과 함께 찍은 사진입니다.
And here when I'm really finishing and getting my diploma, you can learn a little bit from this picture, from this one about our culture. We are very informal society. I must tell you that I'm amazed by your silence, by the uniform, by your ties. We are a little bit different, which makes the interaction much more interesting because I'm coming from a totally informal society. You see, I'm getting my diploma as a doctor and I'm shaking the hand of the dean, no tie, open shirt, nothing. And actually I'm like that until this day.
그 다음에 오른쪽 그림을 보신다면 제가 졸업할 때, 졸업증을 받을 때 사진입니다. 그래서 현재 보게 되면은 귀국에서는 지금 학생들이 다 대학생복을 입고 넥타이를 메고 아주 단정합니다. 그런데 이 그림에서 보시다시피 제가 공부한 이스라엘 졸업장소이지만 편안하게 웃어서 막옷을 입고 평상복 차림 그대로 총장 스승님과 악수를 하는 그런 상태입니다. 그래서 저는 이런 환경에서 자랐고 또 지금도 그러합니다. 제가 살고 있는 환경은 바로 비교과 서로 다릅니다.
So remember, I'm graduating and I still have to go to the military to serve my country, like you are here in the DPRK. And I decided at that time that I nevertheless want to become a doctor, a physician. So to put science aside, I really was hesitating. We shall discuss it later on, when we shall talk about career development. And out of all professions in medicine, I decided to become a surgeon. And I did my surgery training along with my military service. Here you can see just one picture of me suturing a patient that was hit in a road accident. This is an emergency room. I have some other pictures, but I'll save you this part of my career. But it was, I must tell you, very, very interesting being a doctor. And later on, when we shall talk about careers, you will see the difference between, thank you very much. You will see the difference between being a scientist and being a doctor. There are major differences.
그 다음에 이 그림에서는 현재 제가 그 다음에 대학을 졸업한 다음에는 군사복무를 해야 했습니다. 그래서 군사복무를 했습니다. 군의로서 군대에 나가서 그래서 사진을 보여주고 있습니다. 제가 그때 차 사고 난 환자를 치료하는 이런 사진이겠습니다. 다음에 이 시기에도 저는 제가 계속 앞으로 그 우화과학자로 나갈 것인가 아니면 이 상태로 좀 의사로 나갈 것인가 이런 그 생각을 많이 하고 이제 앞으로 계속 나아가면서 이 문제에 대해서는 제가 후에 말씀드리기로 하겠지만 계속 주저하면서 생각을 하게 됐습니다. 그런데 제가 지금 돌이켜보게 되면은 현재 지금 저는 연구 사업을 하는 과학자지만 저의 경력에서 지난 생활에서 이 군사복무를 하면서 준의로서 생활한 의사로서의 생활 이것은 의학자와 또 의사하고 놓고 보면 서로 차이가 난다. 그리고 이때 생활이 아주 또 흥미가 있었다고 저는 생각도 말씀드리게 됩니다.
Anyway, following 3 years in surgery, I changed my mind again. And I decided that this is not interesting enough for me. It will not carry me with excitement along the next 4 decades. And I was looking into my old backlog, which is science, and I decided to go and to do my PhD. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, but my research thesis in another institute in Israel, which is the institute where I'm now faculty, still a faculty, and I did my PhD there. And as a PhD student, I discovered the ubiquitin system that about 40 or 30 years
그래서 그 의학대학 항상 의학대학 옆에는
and I still have a very active laboratory to this variations of the system, why it's important in medicine, how drugs were developed. But then, about 20 years after I returned to the country, when the system became well known,
복다는 것입니다. 그래서 이스라엘이 그렇게 작은 나라입니다. 하지만 작은 나라에 사는 사람들이
a bigger risk that you really love and you're good at it, because this is the only key for success. You will be successful only if you'll be extremely happy in what you are doing.
So today,
here. And when I was 4, my parents moved to Bath, and I spent the rest of my young days, my young life in Bath. But also in puzzles and games. And I love puzzles and games.
Some of these questions, and also the ability to work with people. I always like to work with people. So to cure diseases, to understand why people get sick, how drugs But then, as I said in the morning, in the middle, I decided that I like it. Young people like you are asking us a lot of times, is about how we handle failure. Especially in science, translator in the morning. So you analyze the so-called failure, and you go back and you repeat the experiment now with the conclusions of the previous one. You change something, and at the end you succeed. If you persevere, at the end you succeed. So the idea is never to be deterred by failures or by mistakes. Let's give you one example that may be a little bit complicated to understand, but it's coming from medicine. It's a very interesting example. I'm a surgeon by training, so I did 3 years and then a little bit more of surgery. And there is a very famous, one of the fundamental basics, and then obstructed, and then. But from time to time, you find that you're wrong. It was a mistake. The patient has something else. He may have, for example, a stone in the kidneys, or a woman may have something in the ovary, appendicitis, and the next doctor will come, and he will see the scar. He will think that the appendix was taken out beforehand. So you must take it out in order not to mislead the next one. So this is rule number 1. So even if you made a mistake, you still have to keep on running. Lesson number 2 is if you are a very good doctor and you make hundreds of essentiality of making mistakes in order to be successful. So I brought you an example of my previous life. I had 2 lines.
Thank you very much.
May I say something? I would become a business manager. At some point I was taking an elective seminar where we got to learn very complicated things. We read articles, very mathematical articles in the area of operations research and management science. And I got to do it in projects with it. It was very exciting. But then I continued with my studies, and as we were coming towards the end towards graduation, and I was supposed to look for a job, the professor who had taught that seminar came to me and he asked, "Would you like to become my research assistant?" In Norway, a research assistant is an official position, salary class 20 in all universities. Then I'm told that among the limited seats to which we could invite people to the now, in terms of studies, I agree completely that it would be ridiculous to think about a Nobel Prize. You don't study with that purpose. But then I took about 4 more semesters of math and
this morning, I'm so interested in the economics, just doctor in economics. So
basically, you have an objective function over time, and you have constraints, and you're trying to optimize that objective function. Normally, under normal applications of optimal control theory, whatever you're trying to control responds to the instruments you're using, but what you're trying to control doesn't think itself and think, well, what might he be doing next minute, and should I take that into account? That doesn't happen in the kinds of systems engineers work with, or other technicians who use optimal control theory successfully. You might also call it dynamic programming. That's another name for the general tool. The optimal control theory is not applicable to the policy control problem. Again, you can think of policy being chosen by the policymaker maximizing some objective function over time, subject to constraints, and the constraints include policy control or policy calculation is your future policy affects what you do, what households and businesses do today. If the problem is not recursive, it's not recursive in the usual sense of dynamic programming, where you can start with the last period and work backwards to the present, and then you have your solution. The welfare function of my citizens. Doing nothing with that.
Whether you're familiar with this field in your research.
Well, I get involved in something called bioinformatics, which is essentially using computer programs to study DNA and protein sequences, try to make inferences about gene function, about gene regulatory elements. Then we try to make predictions about gene function, and then follow that through experimentally. We also get involved in analyzing the signals that come directly from the DNA sequencing machines. So there's a new DNA sequencing machine that has been made by a company called Pacific Bioscience. Well, I mean, there are people who fix it biologically. the dynamics is not something I'm particularly interested in, I'm afraid.
Famous Nobel Laureates. I have a question now. Well, in European countries, how much percent of students do you think are majoring Dublin? And I'd like your opinions about Dublin majoring.
So they majored in two subjects to a certain degree, and this made them extremely successful. Yeah, if I may say so. But chemistry and medicine, biomolecular and chemistry, but these are probably subjects which are very close to each other.
I'll give you one example that I think is quite common. I have a degree applying to Carnegie Mellon's MBA program. So you would have 4 years.
My major is material engineering, and if you were in my position, well, what would you like to choose?
As the philosophy, we have only engineering and sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, and we have a medical school. And we have also biomedical engineering. So, for our students, they must always take two selections, except for medicine. In medicine, you study just medicine because it's big enough and the time is short. But for example, in your field, in material sciences, they typically will take chemistry or physics because structure of material has a lot to do with physics or with chemistry. And I think that the thinking behind it, that what we want to educate engineers that are not only technicians, but rather understand deeply what's behind their field. And they will go not only to design, I don't know, no machines, but to invent and to... So once you are learning also side by side with engineering, you are studying also some basic science area, then your view is much broader. So I can tell you, so our electric engineer will typically also take physics. Our computer scientists will take mathematics. So they always have to take a second area that is more related to the base of their engineering profession. And they always graduate in two tracks. And in medicine also, we have, even in medicine, it is not, you don't have medicine in your university, we have a variety of programs. So for example, students can do MD and PhD together. So we always push them to basic sciences. We have a very successful program that is called MD, PhD. So they go to the medical school not for 7 years, but to 12 years.
Read honored to have lessons from the world famous professors and doctors. My name is Chun-Young Kim. I'm studying in the automation engineering faculty. A little far away from my major subject, I want to ask about the successful result of your research did you achieve in your institute, and also I also want to ask how your successful result of your research contribute to the development of education. Yeah, it is my question.
Well, I think that's the same for each. In our case, what we discovered is in the textbooks. It's being taught, I believe it was being taught. What we discovered is in every textbook of biology. So students are studying it worldwide. So if this was the meaning of what you asked, I didn't really catch the here in DPRK, we met yesterday a scientist in Kydland University who knew exactly what I did. She read the literature, she works on my subject, she presented data, so it's like it spread. She knew exactly what I did. So it's education in the broad sense of the word. It's not like frontal education.
But maybe it's helpful also that you explain it's not only an education, but as you said, there are other cases, millions of lives have been saved.
Yeah, well, an important system that was immediately applied to medicine. And many drugs were developed which are being in wide use, mostly for cancer, but now also pharmacological companies start to produce drugs for brain disease. So while our study was driven by curiosity, we didn't need to develop any drug, and even now I'm not involved in it directly. Other people took it and applied it to drug development. So that's
serious about it. Even in medicine, it's practical failure. Because if people fail, typically they become frustrated and they say, no, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not going to be successful. On the contrary, this is
We are very happy your presentation I'll introduce our reports from the faculty. First thing, 강승철 강승철 he is a lecturer from material engineering faculty, and he is Shin Jae-young professor, rector of information science and technology college, and his name is Han Hyunil, Dean of mining engineering faculty. Kim Soo-yeon, Mr. Kim Soo-yeon, lecturer from information quality, and Mr. Bang Won-bong, lecturer from Institute of Information Technology, and Mr. Kim Chol-man, doctor researcher from School of Science and Engineering. Also from same school, Dr. Mangyongdae, and Mr. Ju, professor to head of department, yes, that's head of department of engineering, and researcher professor from School of Science and Engineering, and lecturer Mr. Kim Hyun-chol from the College of Information and yes, one person, lecturer from Electrical Engineering Faculty, and Mr. Kim Kang-do, lecturer from Applied Chemistry Faculty, and you are Applied. He is from the Applied Physics at the faculty. So you are saying Kim Chol-yeon, lecturer from same faculty, and yes, from the foreign language faculty.
Questions to the lectures of the morning of the Nobel Laureates, or you have some presentations, some ideas which you want to discuss with the Nobel Laureates? What is the format?
어떻게 시작 형식으로 어떻게 하자니까?
Can we ask to you? Yes. First time we are present. They are project like this research project.
Welcome to University again. So and thank you for your presentation in the morning. So I'm a professor from the Ocean Europe Shipbuilding and Ocean Developing. So I'm a professor from the Shipbuilding Ocean Developing faculty. So nowadays we are facing energy crisis. So fossil fuels is running out rapidly. So we are facing energy crisis. So we must find other way to develop energy. So including wind power and solar power and wind power. So in that sense, ocean development is very important. So in a country, as you know, our country is surrounded by 3 seas. So ocean engineering is very important. So we are developing some machines, some tools to produce energy from the ocean. So weaving. So tidal. So nowadays weave energy and tidal power and something like that. So suppose that where with the buoyancy is floating on the sea. So then the buoyancy is floating up and down and from side to side. In that case, it can produce energy. So in this way, we can energy from that buoyancy. So there is one method to get energy from the wave. So and the other method is the word. When the tide is coming away and is coming on.
Communication with these other people, or is this just something that you're doing here?
Nowadays we also we are connected to internet. So in the future, so we are communicating.
Okay. That's really important. That's good.
Thank you.
Any other?
First, and then automation engineering. So
how do you think about the relationship between the science and engineering and the social development? How do you think about the relationship between the science, culture, and social development? And how do you, what ideas do you have about this topic?
I think it's a perfect question for
Detailed technological problems. Yeah, so this is a very general problem, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
What is the relationship between science and the culture and technology?
It's the famous Z function of
Z variable.
Z variable.
Professor Philip.
It's common knowledge in economics. Innovative activity is the driving force of the wealth of nations, continuing prosperity. Although one cannot live by technology alone, and by the way, when I say technology, I include all kinds of innovative activities, including developing new ways of making things, new products, and so on. But there are plenty of examples of countries, for example, especially in Latin America, where an outside observer can determine this is a pretty high-tech company. They have potential for being quite productive, but they just don't have the credibility for investors to come in and build the factories and the machines and so on to take advantage of that. That has been, I have observed that myself in Argentina, and it's the case in several Latin American countries. What's interesting is that the extent to which that is a problem differs across countries. So it seems that, I mean, you mentioned culture, and there seems to be something different about the institutional environment in countries that makes that process harder in some countries than in others. So, for example, Chile and Argentina are neighbors. Well, in Chile it's much easier, or at least historically over the past 40 years, it's been much easier for the economy to progress and to make good decisions that promote both technological advance and capital formation. In Argentina, it's incredibly difficult, and it's been so for over 100 years. Back around 1900, Argentina was one of the 5 or 6 most prosperous countries in the world. Now it's down there, and it's regressed. So I suppose the bottom line is it makes sense to think about what kind of institutional arrangements to have in place. It's clear that state can play some role, because many innovative activities are hard to carry out on your own, or they may have externalities. In other words, they benefit not just you doing them, but they also benefit the outside, the rest of society, in a way that makes it difficult. If a company were to take the initiative to engage in those activities, but they don't get all the benefits themselves, then almost everyone else gets the benefits. There's not enough incentive to do it, and so in those cases, that's where it's especially useful for the government to have a role in trying to promote those activities.
Thank you. So, again, my name is Kim Soo-hyun, and I'm a teacher of Information Science and Technology College of this university. The gentleman there asked before about the 5 years future development of our country, science development of our country. And dear Mr. asked, science is a tool of peace, as you said. In my point of view, I think, yes, you're right. And in other part of, in a different point of view, I think it depends on the policy. In my country, under the wise leadership of the great leader Marshal Kim Jong-un, in the future, our science and technology will serve to improve national people's livelihood, to improve people's livelihood. Well, in that view, the science and technology is very important to improve our people's livelihood. Well, of course, science can be served for military purpose, but I think the great leader Marshal Kim Jong-un gave us the wonderful Miracle Scientist Street, and we have to repay the love and the great love and So I think I have to repay the scientific to make a scientific success to improve people's livelihood in a few years later. So mainly my present research is mainly related about image processing, computer graphics, and Mr. Kydland, Finn Kydland, came from UCLA, I think, right?
UCSB.
Well, we have read a lot of books from different countries about computer graphics and image processing. Well, I thought the Professor Bernd Hamann and what's his name? Kenneth Ajoy from UCLA and his writings. So I'm very glad to meet you here in Pyongyang, the Nobel Laureates, and I expect in the near future this conference or this meeting will be developed widely and we can communicate with each other and in order to develop your meaning, tools for peace, the science. That's all.
Thank you very much. Come from? Is it someone from who is trained at a different university, or is it someone who is trained at this university?
대학 교원 모집 선발 과정에 대해서 알고 싶습니다. 그러니까 대체로 이 대학 졸업한 졸업생들로 쓰는지 아니면 다른 대학 졸업생들로 쓰는지.
Slightly differently, how many of you are trained, got your education at this university?
그러니까 이 물음을 달리 제기한다면 여러분들 중에 몇 분이 이 대학을 졸업하셨습니까?
My voice and famous professors they are graduate in our university.
Yes.
And at the same university. And there are several and the other teachers and lecturers are from other universities.
From other universities in Pyongyang or?
Wilson University and Pyongyang Foreign Language University and so on.
Okay, so we will make it practically maybe. Can all of you who were students here at this university again raise their hands, please?
Yes, 이 대학을 졸업하신 분들은 손 좀 들어주세요.
Okay, so most of us graduated from the university.
Yes, everybody who was a student here, please raise their hand.
Yes. Okay.
So, maybe because I was at the university for 25 years, Carnegie Mellon University. In my department, it was forbidden to hire one's own students. Now, I understand that would be impractical in this country because there probably aren't many institutions training people such as you. But I'm just wondering, in the longer run, is that something you are going to be worried about? Is there any effort to try to broaden the set of university or set of training places, or how do you think about this?
목적이 지금 제가 교편을 잡고 있는 카네기 멜론 대학에서 25년째 있는데 우리 대학의 그 규정의 하나가 우리 대학 졸업생들은 받지 못한다, 교원으로 받지 못한다는 것이었습니다. This was
그 보고 이제 우리나라에서 있지 않습니까? 최근에 교육과학에 대해서 상당히 중시하고 다른 대학 선생들도 많이 쓰고 대부분은 뭐 좋은 대학 그다음에 다른 나라에 가서도 공부된 사람 데려다 쓰고 그래가지고서 이런 많은 발전적인 교재로서 교육과학을 연구하고 있고 그걸 도입하고 있고 그렇게 하고 있습니다.
education science. Education science. But at the moment, it is their principle to employ their own graduates and those students who studied abroad. But they're studying how they can improve this kind of proportion of stuff. They're still studying that.
Yes, I mean, there is a term called inbreeding, which is something all universities are scared of because if there's too much inbreeding, one has seen examples where a department just goes stale. It's
in ways that are not always the best, and that there is not this same interest that there used to be in pursuing pursuits and going after things that are just curiosity driven. You just want to know the answer to something that actually drive the society. And this basic research that we do not do enough of, in my mind, is the thing that really makes new industries. In my own field, biotechnology. You know, biotechnology is now the major export from Cuba, for instance. Right? So Cuba's tried many other things. Biotech was the thing they got started on, and that is now the biggest single source of income for Cuba. And they did it because they had this idea that here was a technology that was going to go somewhere, and it all came from some very fundamental discoveries that were made back in the 1970s, and that I was a part of. And it was an exciting time. It's exciting to be a scientist doing that sort of thing. But we didn't do it because we thought we were going to make a load of money. We did it because we thought this was going to improve society, it was going to help people, help research, allow new discoveries to be made, and so on. And one of the things that
My daughter is pregnant.
Your daughter. So you also have one daughter or two daughters? Oh, you have two.
So did the apartment come with all the furniture?
이 아파트 자체 가구들도 다 같이 나셨습니까?
With the furniture. Oh, this is why every all has a piano.
No, the piano is another furniture. It's
That is from their father.
Once you retire from the university,
yes,
at the age of 60 or whatever, you can still stay in the same apartment?
나이가 돼서 과학자 간두면, 병원 간두면 그래도 계속 여기서 사십니까?
Yes.
And free. Don't have to pay anything.
No.
And the children inherited or the children?
It's all free. Anyway, they just only pay very little fee. It is a kind of electricity and water, heating, and gas. Just it's very little bit.
여기 이 두 아파트와 여기서부터 저 끝까지 아파트가
So from this apartment to the end of this street, all are for Chaek University professors and teachers. By the way, we can see.
If somebody just, God forbid, the professor dies in the middle, then the wife and the children can continue living here, or the government will give them alternative housing.
이제 만약 실례를 두면 혹시 이제 어떤 일이 있어서 사망한다고 합시다. 그러면 이 집을 그대로 아내와 자식들이 쓰게 합니까? 아니면 또 뭘 다른 일을 합니까?
자식들이 쓰게 하고 그다음에 대수를 주면
자식들이나 후손자들이 대학을 위해서 일하도록 대학의 정보들이라든가 그렇지 않으면 대학을 위해서 어떤 기여를 하는 일을 하도록.
So normally the government let them still live, the children and their wives as well. But also at the same time, normally the government is promoting their grandson and children to be follow or inherit their father's job as well.
Okay.
So they are promoting the government. That's why normally in our country case, if father is a teacher, and also their children also would prefer to be professors as
It's
well.
true for many cultures that children follow
Yes.
parents, not necessarily, but
네, 다른 나라에서도 이제 자식들이 부모들 뒤를 이어서 그런 그대로 이렇게 하는 것들이 많습니다. Personal talking with them.
Yeah.
About them.
Yes.
The thing is that all furnitures.
이제는 구조를 하면서 그래서 얘기 좀 합시다. 사이즈 좀 보면서 하늘에서 알고 아니 그쪽 쉽지 않은 사람들은 쉽지 않은 쉽지 않은 사람들은
organization or you teach?
We some subjects which they want we can teach them, and then somebody themselves start and learn in library, and mainly learning as by the research project, doing all research project. Yes. So this research project must be high level project.
And there's a committee which selects the And how do they select the topics of the research? How are they selected?
학생들이 연구 테마를 어떻게 잡습니까?
연구제는 대체로 세 가지 형태인데 하나는 국가에서 제기해주고 아까 국가에서 제기해주는 거고 하나는 공장 기술을 위한 기술책에서 제기해주고 하나는 자체로 연구자 자체가
There are three forms of research subjects selected. For example, the government gives the task to the university to make research on a certain subject.
연구자의 의견을 많이 참석합니다.
Well, generally, what we call the democratic plan economy, because generally the tasks for research is being decided among their grass researchers, or language researchers and researchers. They select their research themes and subjects according to the demands of the national economy and what is really important in the economy. So, building the economy. So once it's decided, the matter is raised to the government level, and the government decides, okay, then it really conforms to the demand of the building of the national economy. And period of that, it doesn't. I mean, it depends on the researcher has to make a decision on it, and in exactly which period. I mean, how much time it needed to requires to make a research complete. It could be varies from 1 year to 2 years.
What happens if someone is doing some research, discovers something interesting that is not a part of the main research line? Do they have the freedom to pursue it?
그래서 연구사가 또한 연구 제목을 잡고서 연구를 진행한다 칩시다. 연구를 하다가 이 연구 과제와는 연간이 없는 새로운 발견을 진행했다고 하면 그 발견, 그러니까 이 내팽아치고 자기고 새롭게 이거 발견한 것을 마지막에 끝까지 써놓을 수 있도록 하는데 여기 자유가 있습니다. 제 마음대로 할 수 있습니다.
그것이 옳다는 게 확정이 되면 심의를 거치고